Hello, hello. Morning, Lisbon. Are you ready for the third and last day? Woo! Yes, we are talking today about very exciting things, always related to innovation, but also related to human experience, how we approach changing habits, and how we approach the implications of different technology innovations in one digital space. So I'm very honored and pleased to be here today at the stage with these amazing speakers. And in order to delve into the topic and introduce your amazing paths in the industry, can you tell us a little bit about your passion with embedded finance? How did it get developed within your respective positions and companies? And what is embedded finance that we are talking today about for you? Hiroki.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I mean, I think embedded finance as a term is something that means a lot of different things to different people. But for us, the concept of financial services being embedded into people's day-to-day lives is really where we started. So when we first started GoCardless, we actually initially launched the product with a partner. And one of the things that we really realized was that businesses, they didn't want to think about payments on its own, right? They wanted it to be embedded in the software or the processes that they were running on a day-to-day basis. And so, one of the things that's always driven a big part of our success has been partnering with software providers to surface payments within the process and the experience that they're having on a day-to-day basis. So whether that's sending a customer an invoice or signing up a customer to a new subscription, it being really embedded into that process. And that's been really key to us. I think one of the things that's quite interesting, though, is that as the sort of world of fintech develops, embedded finance is taking on new forms, and we're really excited to be partnering with the team at Pipe on enabling some of our merchants to get more easy access to capital, which is another form of embedding financial services into another financial services provider. So there's a lot of kind of partnership, and I think that is really a key part of what embedded finance means to me, is about partnership.
Love it. Partnership. Keyword. Amazing. Thank you so much. Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my focus has been really on small business for the last almost 10 years. When you go back and you think about it and look at the small business pain points, the number one pain point is always access to capital. I think payments is one of the early leaders in embedded finance. So I was at Intuit for a long time, about 5 years, and then I went to Square. And so watching Intuit start to embed more and more features, like allow your customers to send invoices and get paid. We launched QuickBooks Capital, and that does $2.4 billion a year now in loan volume to the QuickBooks customers. And you have companies like GoCardless that are enabling like instant money movement bank to bank for small businesses. The lending history here, I think, goes back to like the first generation of like OnDeck and Bluevine and Funding Circle and others trying to make loans to small businesses using the data, but it was never really embedded, right? It was kind of detached from the system. So from banking to that generation to now the truly embedded offerings where GoCardless is able to send us anonymized data sets. We're able to pre-approve the customer base, and then just a few clicks, they can get access to capital. And so you can solve that number one pain point with a seamless experience with an 88 NPS score in product. Yeah. Like to see the transition from having to go into a bank to then using some horizontal software to maybe get access to capital using some of the data to deeply embedding it with just a few clicks has been a pretty amazing transition over time, and it's just going to get better as we go forward.
How old is the term? Do you know? Embedded finance?
I wouldn't have any idea on
the
etymology of the term.
Very old, right? I think it's like since the old times. Basically, we are always embedding different services together. But I've learned about embedded twits before I've learned about embedded. This is maybe my journalist professional defamation. Can you delve a little bit into the thought process behind this workflow for you to embed different pieces of the mosaics together? So what is the idea that usually pushes forward implementation, and what factors do you take into consideration while creating these new experiences?
Yeah, well, I think for us, as I was saying, at the start, one of the early insights that we had was that payments wasn't something that people thought about, as a standalone thing. They thought of it as part of a wider process, and so it was always very natural to us to think about, okay, well, how can we embed payments as deeply as possible into the way that people are already running their businesses and just make it more seamless. I think when we talk about the partnership that we have with Pipe, I think is a little bit different in that we have about 100,000 small businesses using our platform, and there's some very clear reasons why they love working with us. Right, we give them better cash flow, we help them to reduce their late payments, we help them to reduce the amount of time and energy they're spending on admin, and that's why they love us, right? And it's solving some of their key problems. But as Luke said, one of the big challenges that a lot of businesses face is around getting access to capital. And oftentimes what we find is that it's about awareness, isn't it? It's like they don't know what they can get access to, and especially if you're used to having to go to your bank, where it's quite an onerous process, and a lot of banks are not well set up to make loans, especially to really small businesses. That can be a real big challenge. And so one of the things that we found has been really powerful about the partnership that we've had is that, as you said, we can pre-approve people and really surface what's available to them in their day-to-day process, right? They're checking on a customer, they're there looking at how much they're going to get paid tomorrow, and then they can say, okay, wow, okay, actually, I was thinking about trying to buy some more equipment to expand my business or open up a new location, and we can say, okay, here's a pre-approved access to capital that you can go and get with a few clicks. That's really, really powerful, and I think that's what we're seeing is that the financial services being more embedded into people's day-to-day lives.
I think customer examples are always super helpful. We have one partner of ours is a vertical SaaS business that serves nail salons and hair salons. There's another that serves service-based businesses like electricians and plumbers. And so my first question usually is when you're thinking about, well, how do we attach this product, you want to know what the customers are doing in product. Like what tasks do the nail salon owners complete every single day? And it generally starts with appointments, right? And then taking payments or managing inventory. And so you have to then map that to, okay, where is the point of need for access to capital? It could be pay your payroll with capital. It could be you just received a bill and you need to pay it. Well, you have this GoCardless line that's ready. You can pay your bills with capital. You're thinking about buying equipment or inventory, and that's when you want to bring that pre-approved offer to that pain point in product. So when you're naturally thinking about when you might need money, it just appears there and it's ready to go. So you have this security blanket that just follows you around. Every task you're completing that might need capital, it's just there. It's a known thing. It just feels good to know that you have access whenever you need it. And so there's always an analysis of, okay, show me, you could go talk to the product managers and say, show me the tasks that your customers are completing in product. You'd be surprised that some folks don't really know exactly what their customers are doing in their product. And you say, okay, you need to add a layer of data analytics and tracking so you can actually figure it out, so then we can talk about where we should be inserting these offers into product. Sometimes we help our partners understand their customer behavior better. Like this goes back to Intuit and Scott Cook, where Scott used to literally follow people home after they bought like shrink wrap Quicken software at the Office Depot. And he'd say, hey, my partner and I, Tom, wrote this software. Can we literally come to your house and watch you install it to understand what the customer's doing in product? Like that customer-focused DNA is what we have at Pipe as well. And we always focus on exactly what the customers are doing in product and then bring the embedded finance to that pain point so they have access whenever they need it with just a few clicks. And after the second draw, it's just one click. It's just an easy thing. I know I have it. I can click on it and get it whenever I want it. It's pretty powerful.
I think you've had a very important dichotomy, and I've also experienced it a lot these days at Web Summit and in my long career in blockchain. So you use the word seamless, and this is something that is used here quite a lot. Like we are moving towards seamless solutions. At the same time, if the clients, the community doesn't know about the benefit that the solution gives them, then it's seamless, meaning that they will not use it. So you need to educate them. So this education versus seamlessness is something extremely important. do you think that, like, what are the actors that, in your opinion, are the most perceptive in the industry, who are ready to, like, reach out to these new heights and changing habits? And who are those who are, in your opinion, lagging behind? Because we have really contrasting stakeholders in the financial industry. Like, you have banks who, like, I don't know if it's the case in every country, but, like, I have to somehow go in the bank office in Italy because there is, like, for any question that needs to be solved, and to spend 40 minutes and just change, I don't know, my address, because somehow the experience is not adapted to, you know, being seamless. And then there are, I don't know, DeFi platforms that are extremely accessible and everything is simple, but you need to be educated to do this. And I don't know, for my grandmother, it's much simpler to go to the bank and spend 40 minutes than use a DeFi platform. So who are the actors who are pushing this change, in your opinion, and who are simpler for you to work with? And who are those whom you need to educate more and involve more and spend your time more on?
Yeah, good question. Do you want to go first? Or?
Sure, I can. I think you bring up some interesting points. Like, it really comes down to how much can you reduce the friction and still be compliant with local regulation, right? I think DeFi and crypto has pushed it too far in some sense. At Square, I think we did an amazing job. At Intuit, we did an amazing job as well. And at Pipe, we do too. But you basically have to do KYC and KYB. So that's know your customer, know your business. You have to make sure you're not serving terrorists or helping people launder money, right? And so the more you can take the friction out of the onboarding process, that's how you get to seamless, right? So the example for our customers, we have anonymous data that comes over that lets us produce pre-approved offers. But when the customer lands on the landing page and sees what it is and they click apply, that's when they agree to have GoCardless share their data with Pipe. That completely automates the application. So it's about getting all the information you'd have to normally fill out on a paper form at the bank in Italy, for example. We get automatically, because GoCardless has already done the payments onboarding. It has all the data we need to do our onboarding for our different financial services product, but have to follow the same money laundering regulations, for example. So when you automate that data input, and the entire application is literally 2 clicks to get to the point where all the data is submitted and you're ready to go, and then the last part is just another click, that's how you get to seamless. It's using the data you already have on hand, and because we do a B2B2B approach to acquire a customer, our partners already have the data that their customers would need to fill out the application. So you can get to this seamless setup. The banks just can't do it. Right? The lending arms of the banks don't even have the checking account part of the bank's data in some senses. And so it's just so bifurcated and divided in old school banking. And then I think, like, just the examples you see of, like, the true three-click process is that frictionless experience, and you'll get 3 times the conversion as anyone else. If you have to ask somebody to connect their bank, or you have to ask them to enter their bank information, or just enter their personal address, you get drop-off at every time you even ask for a piece of information. And so the more you can just literally have it be a click and review type of flow, that's the magic. And, like, Pipe has it, and our conversion is very high because of that.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd add there is what I think has driven a lot of these changes is actually quite a big shift in consumer and, like, businesses' willingness to trust services online, right? I mean, I think if I think about when we first started back in 2011, at that point it was like a big question, right? Which was, you know, would businesses be willing to trust their money with an online provider that, you know, they've never met, there's no physical location they can go and see, you know, etc. And, you know, back then it was still, you know, banks, the high street, being able to go to a branch, that was like a much bigger part of the trust that was built, right? And I think what we've seen is a big shift where consumers, merchants, they're much more willing to interact with all of these services on a purely digital basis. And then now we're getting to the point where there's so much trust built into those relationships that they're willing to take referrals from like one digital provider to another one, like the one that you were just describing, right? And so I think that's been a really key part of what's enabled a lot of this innovation around creating more seamless experiences and disrupting what was the status quo before. I do think it is worth noting, though, that we are seeing the banks respond to that, right? I mean, I think that it obviously varies from country to country and from bank to bank, but they're definitely trying to make their digital experiences more user-friendly, more competitive, and so I think it's just been great for the whole industry. Really, is this willingness to adapt and move more and more of what we do into a digital sphere.
I really liked how you also connected experience with regulation. Like, sometimes they are not connected, I think, in minds in terms of innovation, but they are very much connected. So this is very interesting. We have also regulatory frameworks different across the world. I would love to delve a little bit into this global topic. You also mentioned physical communities and experiences. You are representing a partnership that actually bridges continents. And I know that you're working on global solutions, but still you are experiencing local differences, right? How does it impact the thought process and the implementation with the embedded finance, the differences across the world with the both B2B and B2C development?
Well, I think when it comes to fintech in general, getting that regulatory piece right is actually a core part of the value proposition. It might not be what the merchant sees as the value proposition, but it's core to actually enabling the service, right? And it's, as you said, like so much of what we do is about trying to make that KYC experience, that onboarding experience as seamless as possible. And there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to do that, right? And to do that in a way that's still compliant with all the regulations that exist around the world. And especially as you start to do that on a more global basis, it gets more complex, right? It's like, how do you find a solution that works both for the UK regulator and the European regulators and the US regulators, often which are state by state, right? There's a lot of complexity there. So I think that is actually a key part of many fintech companies' competitive moats, is solving those challenges in a way that's both compliant and also a really great user experience. So I think it's absolutely crucial.
I think like how you build your fintech company matters here. If you want to be able to go fast in multiple geographies, you have to have a modular approach to build stuff. You need a money movement module. We actually use GoCardless on the back end to take payments back from the partners. And so in every geo we go into, we need a local authorized money movement partner, because we don't want to go integrate with banks in 20 different countries, because we have partners like GoCardless who've already done that. And we can go call the money movement API and move money. On the account, like the onboarding orchestration layer, we were able to launch in the US and like in the UK in 6 weeks, because we had an orchestration layer built already. You just end up swapping in the local data sets, and the rules are very similar from an AML perspective across most geographies. And so you can still run those rules in that rules engine and make it exportable to multiple geos. And so if you build your company in a way that you can swap the module for the local provider and just move fast, it makes a massive difference, because there are very specific regulations in each geo that you need to comply with, and having an orchestration, like a onboarding orchestration layer to apply the AML policies in a separate money movement engine that can just be swapped and plugged in, makes you go super fast. It's like a lot of startups want to build everything and go fast. You cannot do that if you're trying to go into 20 geos. Yep. You have to find local partners that can help you do the hard parts that are truly scalable, and being able to reconcile the money to the penny every single day in every geo when you're moving millions of dollars every day in different geos. It's very, very hard to do. There's some pretty bad examples in the US of some BaaS companies messing it up pretty badly because they tried to build it themselves and they messed it up. But like this modular approach to building makes it super fast to go international, actually.
Super interesting. I think I would love to end up on a future outlook note. In ancient Greek philosophy, the future was not ahead of us, but behind us, because we do not see it. And we see actually the history, what is past. I'm working a lot with scientific community, especially the Exponential Science Foundation, and I see how scientists and researchers are approaching the past to analyze and then to bring solutions to the future. You are, from the business perspective, maybe a little bit more focused on short-term and long-term sustainable development of solutions. If you think forward, like how do you see both embedded finance, like user experience, and fintech in general developing in terms of experiences? Do you think at some point we will, drop our phones, for example? Do you think there will be new disruptive technologies like AI is being already that will totally change the way we interact with financial services? And what is the term for that in terms of time horizon, in your opinion?
Good question. I think for me, probably this topic, this term embedded finance, which I still think is quite broad, right, and it means different things. I think that's the core of the future as well, right, where it's about these sorts of financial services, which historically were quite hard to access, being at the tip of your finger in whatever it is that you're doing at any given moment. And whether that's using software on a desktop PC through to it being on like a contact lens and embedded into like the augmented reality that you're seeing, I think really it's just about it being surfaced in the moment, right? And it's like you described, as you're going to pay a bill, or as you're going to make an investment decision or buy more equipment, it being surfaced as you're making that decision, as you're going through that process. I still think we're in the relatively early phases of that trend, right? And so I think there's a long way to go there.
I think data, like two things. One, data to the interface, I think, is changing. So on data, even 10 years ago, the only validated, trended data sets were audited financial statements and tax returns. And so banks would need 2 years of that to go. At QuickBooks Capital, we used all of the accounting data, all of the bank data, everything to try to get a view of the P&L of a business. And you knew you didn't have all the data. And so you're making decisions with limited data. With the Pipe product, we have perfect data on a cash flow stream, and we're advancing money against that cash flow stream. So you narrow the problem to that, and it changes what the friction is. Like, we are 100% automated from a credit perspective because we are underwriting a specific cash flow stream. That changes the game on that. And so I think as the data sources become more holistic, and you know that you have all of the data on a business, like all of the transactions in and out, you'll have the clarity to take risk for the first time, where you still don't right now. The interface is changing is another really interesting one, right? Like, you used to get paper statements in the mail, and then you got PDF statements, and then you have stuff you can download from your QuickBooks software, or you can look at the dashboard in Square. I think it's going to shift now to where, going on to the software verticals, you can just manage your whole business in one software. I think you're going to be able to just automatically book appointments with AI agents, for example. Your customer should call in and talk to the agent to book the appointment for you and then take the payment automatically. And so it takes out a whole layer of operational need for small businesses to help them spend more time with their kids, frankly. So I'm super excited about how AI agents are going to change SaaS vertical software over time as well.
Thank you so much for your insights. I really wish you good luck with all the amazing developments that you've been doing and your partnership. And I think this is a great demonstration of what is seamless. It actually has so much research behind it. And I actually advise you all maybe to get some time to learn about what is behind the seamless that is maybe something that is associated with the future world, right? Because behind there is so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
thank
you everyone. Have a great day in Lisbon.
I think we got this.